Get to know the story of the larger Premier League's top scorer and one of the greatest scorers in English football. But first, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like so you don't miss any Spurs news. Okay? James Peter Greaves was an English footballer who marked his time as one of the greatest in history. Greaves is considered one of the greatest scorers of his generation. He was the national top scorer on 6 occasions, being responsible for the highest number of goals in an edition of the English Championship, 41, in addition to being the top scorer in the history of English football. He is also the 3rd highest scorer in the England team, behind only Rooney, Bobby Charlton, and Gary Lineker, but having played fewer matches than the top 3. Greaves was also inducted into the English Football Hall of Fame in its opening year. Career. Greaves started his career at Chelsea when he was just 17. During his 4 seasons at Stamford Bridge, Greaves was top scorer in the domestic league twice. The first came in his 2nd season as a professional, when he scored 32 times. The second time came in his 4th and last year at the club, when he scored an impressive 41 goals, being the record in a championship edition until today. Before his second strike, Greaves became the youngest footballer to score 100 Premier League goals when he was 20 years and 290 days old. With his impressive performances, Chelsea began to receive several proposals for the striker, including a proposal from the Italian Milan that was later accepted, after rejecting a great proposal from Newcastle United. In all, Greaves played 169 games, scoring an incredible 132 goals, but failed to win any title of expression. However, his time with the Rossoneri was just 5 months, with Greaves scoring 9 times in 10 games, and participating in the campaign that would end with the club's 8th national title. Here begins the glorious trajectory in the Spurs. Intending to return to English football, he received a curious proposal from Tottenham Hotspur manager Bill Nicholson, who paid £99,999 for Greaves' pass, in order to avoid the pressure of making him the first player to cost £100,000. During his 9 seasons at the club, Greaves was the team's top scorer throughout those years, having scored a total of 266 times in 379 matches, including 220 goals in the domestic league, making him the top scorer in the history of English football, in addition to finishing 4 times as the league's top scorer, apart from twice during his time at Chelsea, and once as the top scorer in the Champions Cup. At Spurs, he won 5 titles, twice the prestigious FA Cup, in addition to the Super Cups, and, most importantly, the European Cup Winners' Cup, making Tottenham the first British team to win an international title. In the final against Atletico de Madrid, he scored 2 goals in the 5-1 victory. He also received the Bronze Ball from France Football, behind Lev Yashin and his former Milan teammate, Gianni Rivera. Already in his 30s, Greaves ended up being sold to West Ham United, being involved in the deal his former teammate, Martin Peters. On his debut, he scored, as on his debuts for other teams, twice against Manchester City. No longer able to be the Greaves of yesteryear, he ended up retiring at the age of 31, after just 1 season with the Hammers. English national team. His call-up to the English team was a matter of time with his performances at Chelsea, and it happened on May 17, 1959, for a match against Peru. Greaves scored the goal of honor in the 4-1 defeat. Having scored 19 goals before qualifying for the 1962 World Cup, he was eventually included in the final list. Having scored only 1 goal in the tournament, Greaves is best remembered in this edition because of the match against Brazil. The match referee stopped the match twice and ran after 2 dogs that invaded the field. After several players tried to catch them, with one of the dogs dodging Garrincha, Greaves got on all 4s and approached the animal that looked at him in amazement. When he managed to catch him, the scared dog ended up urinating on Greaves and, Garrincha finding the situation funny, ended up adopting the animal. He was called up again for a World Cup, this time in the 1966 edition, played in English territory. Greaves started as a starter for Alf Ramsey's team, playing in the first 2 matches, against Uruguay and Mexico. However, he ended up suffering a leg injury in the last match in the group stage, against France. He ended up being left out of the match against Argentina in the quarter-finals to recover from the injury. He was replaced by Jeff Hurst, who was responsible for qualifying for the next stage. Despite recovered, Greaves ended up not returning to the starting lineup and Jeff kept. Hurst would still end up scoring 3 goals in the final against West Germany, and subsequently came to be considered holder of the only English world title. Greaves, despite not admitting it, was deeply upset after losing his starting job, even though Hurst was responsible for the win. Another reason he was upset about losing his starting spot was that only the starting 11 received champions medals. He ended up receiving the medal from Gordon Brown at a ceremony at 10 Downing Street, only on the 10th of June 2009, after the FA tried for years to convince FIFA that everyone was part of the title. Shortly after the tournament, Greaves went on vacation with his wife while the other players attended an official banquet. He played just 3 more games with the English team shirt after the event and scoring a goal, his last game being in May 1967 against Austria. Even so, he was called up to compete in Euro 1968, as a substitute for Hurst. In all, he played 57 games, scoring 44 goals, winning, in addition to the 1966 World Cup, 4 British Nations Championships. Farewell to an idol. Greaves died on September 19, 2021, aged 81. And you fans, did you already know the story of this legend of world football? Comment, because your opinion is very important to us.